mo ay na baby.
So now let's discuss the lateral compartment of our forearm. So this muscle, the extensor carpi radialis longus, functions to extend our wrist. So extension of the wrist goes like this. So this is the wrist flexion. So if we're going to extend it, it's like this. Wrist flexion, wrist extension. So talking about the extensor carpi radialis longus, this muscle originates from the distal supracondylar ridge in the lateral part, lateral supracondylar ridge of our humerus, and it inserts to the posterior base of our second metacarpal bone, and it is supplied by the radial nerve. So now, let's talk about the superficial layer of the posterior compartment of our forearm. So let us be reminded that these muscles originate from the lateral epicondyle of our humerus. It functions in wrist extension, and it is supplied by the deep branch of our radial nerve. So let's discuss this four. So first we have our extensor carpi radialis brevis. So this muscle inserts to the base of the third metacarpal bone. Our extensor digitorum, which inserts to the middle and the distal phalanx of our second, third, fourth, and fifth digits. And other than wrist extension, it also functions in extension of the metacarpophalangeal, proximal interphalangeal, and the distal interphalangeal joints of our second to fifth digits. So next is our extensor Digiti minimi. This muscle inserts to the extensor expansion of our fifth digit. And lastly, our extensor carpi ulnaris. It inserts to the base of our fifth metacarpal bone. So all of the muscles, the ECRB, the extensor digitorum, the extensor digiti minimi, and the extensor carpi ulnaris extends our wrist. So now let's talk about the deep layer of the posterior compartment of our forearm. So we have these four muscles. We have the abductor pollicis longus, extensor pollicis brevis, extensor pollicis longus, and our extensor indices. So these four muscles originate from the posterior shaft of our ulna, and they are innervated by the deep branch of the radial nerve. So let's tackle them one by one. So we have our abductor pollicis longus. So this muscle originates from the posterior shaft of our ulna and our radius, and it inserts to the lateral aspect of the first metacarpal bone. Next we have the extensor pollicis brevis, which originates from our posterior border of ulna and inserts to the base of the proximal phalanx of our thumb. So it functions in extending the carpometacarpal joint and the metacarpophalangeal joint of our thumb. And another muscle we have is the extensor pollicis longus. So this muscle originates from the posterior border of our ulna. It inserts into the base of the distal phalanx of the thumb, and it functions in extension of the carpometacarpal, metacarpophalangeal, and the interphalangeal joint of our thumb. And lastly, we have our extensor indices, which again comes or originates from the posterior shaft of our ulna, and it inserts into the extensor expansion of our second digit. And this muscle functions in extension of the metacarpophalangeal joint of our second digit.
Yeah, it's mo ay na baby.